Welcome. I'm Tracy Smith, and this is Here Comes the Sun, a closer look at some of the people, places, and things we bring you every weekend on Sunday morning. You could call Zoe Kravitz a multi-hyphenate talent, model, musician, writer, and now she can add director to that repertoire with the release of Blink Twice, a thriller she also co-wrote. Michelle Miller sat down with Kravitz to learn more about what motivates her.
At 35, Kravitz knows who she is and what inspires her.
I'm attracted to strong women, women who don't see themselves as victims or aren't written as victims, really.
Her co-stars on Big Little Lies, Oscar winners Reese Witherspoon and Nicole Kidman, have been a guiding force in front of and behind the camera.
Just having a community of women that show up for each other and take care of each other, whether it's, supporting each other's projects or getting together and having a glass of wine and a laugh and a cry or whatever, that was an incredible gift.
Later in the show, Zoe Kravitz on why she doesn't star in her directorial debut.
I thought it was very intentional of you not to star in it. Did you ever thought maybe you could take on the lead?
No, I think that would be crazy. I really do.
Why?
I just think, especially as a first-time director, I really wanted to focus on my job, and to do both just seems like a lot of work. And I also personally, obviously there are tons of fantastic, actor-directors, but I do think that there's something really special about the relationship between a director and an actor.
Then, 50 years ago, Philippe Petit shocked the world by walking across a high wire strung between World Trade Center towers. Martha Teichner met up with him to look back on the harrowing feat.
For months, Petit performed in the streets of New York to finance the stealth operation. He and his accomplices skulked around, sneaking into the still unfinished World Trade Center, plotting how to get their equipment inside and how to string a wire between the towers.
So that's the first thing.
Using a bow and arrow. So this is the very one.
Yep.
Did you like all that trickery?
Oh, I love it.
That's all coming up right here on Here Comes the Sun. Zoe Kravitz is no stranger to fame. She's the daughter of musician Lenny Kravitz and actor Lisa Bonet, after all. But as a child, she didn't quite understand the magnitude of her parents' star power until her father picked her up from school and a crowd formed. Here's Michelle Miller.
What do you like about Brooklyn?
What I like about Brooklyn, it feels very neighborhoody,
It's a hot day in her hometown, and Zoe Kravitz couldn't be happier.
I love New York in the summer.
Really?
I love it so much. I love sitting outside. I love the humidity.
Yeah.
I think there's nothing like it.
But even if it's 100 degrees, Kravitz has a way of staying cool.
Don't throw your life away.
She does it as Catwoman in The Batman.
Don't worry, honey. I got 9 of them.
And the blockbuster franchises X-Men, Divergent, and Mad Max.
And so I started to run at him.
Or in the hit series Big Little Lies.
And the closer I got to him, the more I knew what I had to do.
An actor, producer, executive producer, and now for the first time, director.
Nice to meet you, Frida. We're going to my island for a few days.
Do you guys want to come?
Everybody say, making memories! Making memories!
I knew I always wanted to direct, but it felt like with this story specifically, it was so clear in my mind and so specific in tone that I didn't feel comfortable just passing it on to somebody else to direct.
Blink Twice, which she also co-wrote,
You having a good time?
We're having a great time.
is a thriller with charm.
The legendary parties of Slater King with drugs and debauchery.
We still do drugs.
It tells the story of a tech billionaire who invites a cocktail waitress to his island getaway.
I think I'll survive.
Strange things start to happen, and she starts to realize that maybe this trip isn't going as well as she thought it was. And she's got to figure out what's going on and get out of there.
I don't want him to speak over your line, you know what I mean?
The foray into filmmaking is not much of a surprise considering her roots.
Where we're moving on now.
Her paternal grandmother, Roxy Roker, played Helen Willis on The Jeffersons.
Now, Helen.
George!
Her mother, Lisa Bonet, became famous as Denise Huxtable on The Cosby Show.
Listen, we got some new steps to show you. Oh, great. Are they really fresh? Absolutely. I want to spring them on my dad.
You're like, that's my mom.
That's my mom. I don't think I understood at the time what that show meant culturally when it was on the air.
It was the same for her dad, rock star Lenny Kravitz, who shared custody of Zoe after he and Bonet divorced.
He picked me up from school one day, and the entire school, flooded to the parking lot, and it was just this insane scene. It was just a moment of really understanding, what his life was like.
She'd follow in their footsteps.
We got this.
Okay.
We're fine. We're fine.
Poking a little fun at their celebrity.
I've seen the way you show up and take care of the people you love.
Like when her father received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
But mostly, I've seen through your shirts.
At 35, Kravitz knows who she is and what inspires her.
I'm attracted to strong women, women who don't see themselves as victims or aren't written as victims, really.
Her co-stars on Big Little Lies, Oscar winners Reese Witherspoon and Nicole Kidman, have been a guiding force in front of and behind the camera.
Just having a community of women that show up for each other and take care of each other, whether it's, supporting each other's projects or getting together and having a glass of wine and a laugh and a cry or whatever, that was an incredible gift.
Something's making us forget.
Which brings us back to Blink Twice.
Where's Jess?
Who's Jess?
I would say the women in this film are badass.
Yes, they are.
You got all that? It's a bit of a whirlwind.
Oh, yeah, no, I have an excellent memory.
Yeah. You look kind of familiar. I know you from somewhere. Seen you somewhere?
What?
Nothing.
We watched a scene featuring the film's leads, Naomi Aki and Channing Tatum.
I wanted it to feel a little bit disorienting,
I mean, the only thing you didn't put in there was the shining with the ding.
I know, with like a spark on his teeth, you mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I like playful filmmaking. I like when the audience has a sense of, it's a movie, you know what I mean? And we're all in it together and it's not reality.
But what did become reality? A real romance with her star. Channing Tatum and Kravitz fell in love during production and are now engaged.
Yeah.
Look at those eyes.
It's very handsome,
It's not the love.
honestly.
I guess I'll see you.
What's it like directing someone you're in a relationship with? Is it more difficult?
No, I think, I directed him the same way I directed all my other actors. You get to know all your actors, and different actors want different kinds of direction. So I think that's the thing that you have to learn as a director. But when we're at work, we're at work, It requires so much of you. There's no room for anything else to creep in there.
Laser-like focus.
Yeah, absolutely.
With a keen attention to her craft, Zoe Kravitz has the confidence to do it all.
You've been a model, an actor, a writer,
Yeah.
a director, a musician.
Yeah.
Do people not expect you to do all that?
I love exploring different expressions, and I think they all feed each other too and inspire each other. And I feel like there's just so much to learn. I'm a very curious person, and so I think doing one thing and one thing only doesn't feel like I'm growing and learning. So yeah, I like to stretch my legs.
After the break, an exclusive excerpt from Michelle Miller's chat with Zoe Kravitz, something you can only see right here on Here Comes the Sun. Stay with us.
So I'm okay with people underestimating me if that's what they want to do.
As promised, here's more from Michelle Miller's interview with Zoe Kravitz.
I don't want to give the movie away because I really do believe people should go into it knowing nothing.
I agree. I think that's the best way to watch the film.
But I want to talk about your shot sequences and how you built the suspense, it's the genre itself. How would you describe it?
I would describe it as a thriller, as a psychological thriller that has some, action and horror and comedy elements. It's kind of got all of the things.
It really does.
So I see why it's difficult to categorize. But I feel like life is all of those things, and so I think the genre of a film is usually what is the loudest genre, part of the film. But all of our favorite films have a little bit of everything. They have to.
I thought it was very intentional of you not to star in it. Did you ever thought maybe you could take on the lead?
No, I think that would be crazy. I really do.
Why?
I just think, especially as a first-time director, I really wanted to focus on my job, and to do both just seems like a lot of work. And I also personally, obviously there are tons of fantastic, actor-directors, but I do think that there's something really special about the relationship between a director and an actor. My lead actress, Naomi Ackie, I think that I'm able to see things about her that she probably can't see about herself. And, if it was me, I don't know, if my perspective would be focused on the wrong things. I see her and I see what she's capable of, and I can push her to do things that maybe she wouldn't do on her own. I see her beauty and her complexity, and part of the joy of being a director is seeing that and finding ways to translate that and bring that onto the big screen.
What would you say you learned most in this film, in the process of making the film?
Oh, what I learned most.
About yourself.
I learned that I do know how to tell a story. I think, I've been in this industry for a long time, and I've learned a lot, and I think in the back of my mind, I always hoped and believed that I was capable of doing this, but you never know until you do it. So I guess I learned that I am capable of telling the stories that I see in my mind.
What's next for you? You've done it all.
I don't know. I would like to continue to write and direct. That's, I think, something that excites me and something that feels like it can be new every time, because the story is different and the way you see the world is different, and I still have so much to learn. You learn a lot doing your first film directing. So I think, it's almost like I went to college now, for directing, and now I want to try to apply everything that I've learned to something else.
So the next step is a director's role, an acting role?
I'll do some acting as well, in the next couple months. But then I think I would like to focus on writing and directing, yes.
Do you feel people underestimate you?
Yeah, probably. But then it's, I have my own insecurities, so it's not like I'm sitting around feeling like, you guys don't know what I can do. I think there's, there are moments where I feel like I feel more confident, and there are moments where I think, well, maybe they're right.
My favorite saying is, under-promise,
over-deliver. Yeah, and so I'm okay with people underestimating me if that's what they want to do.
Me too.
Yeah, I really like the film, and I'm proud of it, and so that's really what matters.
Up next, a balancing act. Welcome back. Philippe Petit made headlines in 1974 for walking a high wire between the Twin Towers. 50 years later, he hasn't slowed down, continuing to train daily in his backyard. Martha Teichner spoke with him ahead of another high wire walk in New York City.
The red line is the wire. We know it's 20 feet high at the top of the two posts.
Philippe Petit will walk a high wire across the nave of St. John the Divine in New York City, the world's largest cathedral. Those specks down there, Philippe Petit and me.
My love for magnificent places and my love for walking on the tightrope and sharing with an audience, my passion has not changed.
He's walked this space many times before. And now, there'll be a celebration of that other walk, the one he spectacularly took 50 years ago on August 7th, 1974, between the Twin Towers, a quarter of a mile up.
There is somebody out there in a tightrope walk.
I can see a photograph, and immediately that pulls me into remembering not only with my brain, but with my body.
He crossed back and forth 8 times in 45 minutes. For the Oscar-winning documentary, Man on Wire, he wanted this music by Eric Satie.
The first gymnopédie is a piece of music that is made of suspension, is made of silence, it's made of hesitation, it's made of nothingness.
Just like his dance in the sky.
I had conserved my sense of rebellion and my sense of poetry.
He was impish, playful, and a bit cocky when the NYPD hauled him off to the station.
Why did you do this?
When I see a beautiful place to put my wire, I cannot resist.
Philippe Petit was charged with trespassing and disorderly conduct, a colossal understatement for what he called his coup. The charges were later dropped.
In French, when you rob a bank, it's a coup. You know what you say in America, the caper.
For months, Petit performed in the streets of New York to finance the stealth operation. He and his accomplices skulked around, sneaking into the still unfinished World Trade Center, plotting how to get their equipment inside, and how to string a wire between the towers.
So that's the first thing.
Using a bow and arrow. So this is the very one.
Yep.
Did you like all that trickery?
Oh, I love it. We are 80 stories high.
Overlooking where the Twin Towers used to be.
So it's interesting to know that at the Twin Towers, I was actually 30 stories higher. I stop in the middle of one of my walk and I sit on the cable. I was able to look and to marvel at what I was looking at and thinking nobody in the world had ever walked so high and nobody has seen what I am seeing.
And nobody would ever again.
I was actually walking right there and...
After the destruction of the Twin Towers on 9/11.
Inside my heart, they're not gone. And that's what you do when somebody you love dies. You carry them with you and they're still alive in some way.
Philippe Petit is 74 now, about to turn 75. He lives in upstate New York and has a high wire in his backyard. He likes to say age means nothing to him. His performance will be, by his count, his 100th public walk. Rehearsing for it, his concentration is ferocious, his preparation fanatical, as if his life depended on it, which it does.
There is no fear. Why should I make a mistake if I put my entire mind and body into feeling myself being alive? And even if really I know my body is slowly refusing to get my brain's order, still I will have the joy of rediscovering the magic of balance every day by practicing. This is the actual historic, one would say legendary, cable that I used between the Twin Towers. And it was very long, so I cut it.
Walking it half a century later, he's still the rebel poet, still defying anybody who says, no, you can't.
Excellent. Absolutely perfect on the first try. Okay.
I'm Tracy Smith. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you here next time on Here Comes the Sun.